We're back again on Lutherans Alive with Pastor Bernie Carl, St. Peter's Church in Uniontown. Bernie, thanks again so much for
You're very
coming in and
welcome.
sharing this innovative idea with us. Something that I already, the wheels are turning, and I'm thinking about how I can adapt it for the local situation. When we finished, we were talking about, again, the importance of relating the biblical journey of Jesus and the disciples on the road to Jerusalem.
Right.
I also had this vision in mind. You mentioned being able to plot for people where they might be on that journey. Kind of reminded me of one of your trips on the turnpike, and you stop and the sign says, "You are here."
You are here, right? Yes.
and it orients you as well to where home was, where you started, and the
Right.
ultimate destination. And I'm sure that helped to kind of provide some orientation throughout the process.
Yeah, we tried to provide some visuals for our members. As I said, we had produced a map that we displayed every week, and it had a beginning point, and it was always Nazareth where we began, and then there were arrows directing you to this place of how many miles it was from, say, Jerusalem to Cana, then Cana to Samaria, Samaria to Nain, and so forth, and ultimately to Jerusalem. And we made some little curves and turns so that I could find places in which there were some biblical events that happened there, because along the way there wasn't always that biblical event that you could point to. But you outside of Jerusalem, you go to Bethany and what the Mount of Olives and Gethsemane and those issues before Jesus actually made it to Jerusalem. So we use some of those biblical stories, provided that read this for today. Here's where this is what happened here. But for more information, read this part of the Gospel of Mark or Matthew or Luke or John as to how those events occurred.
Sure, because those kind of details are going to inform the story.
Right.
Sure.
And I had picked up a book that had it was pictures of biblical scenes, and so every so often we had a stand in which they could go and look at this book to get a visual as to, well, what would have Samaria look like today? What did it look like back then? So that's where you should be today. You should be here. You should be here. That was basically a weekly thing. It wasn't really a daily event. I tried to put on the map those places that would correspond to certain points, whether it was a Sunday or whatever.
Yeah. And as you mentioned that, I hope people are getting the perspective that this was, of course, a piece that was traveling parallel to the Sunday morning worship.
Yes.
And the Wednesday midweek, those worship experiences for the whole community were still going on at the same time.
Yes, we still had Sunday worship. I usually do a Lenten series either on Wednesdays. Sometimes I do a Lenten series on Sunday for preaching, trying to pick up some of the biblical passages. Wednesdays, we're all at St. Peter's on Wednesdays. What we have been doing is doing soup and sandwich events with worship tied in with a general theme. Throughout all that, some years it's been the small catechism, some years it's been what does it mean to be a Christian, what does it mean to be a child of God, faith practices, doing with prayer and praise and thanksgiving and those kind of things. So we try to tie all that as much as possible, all that together with what we were doing with the Lenten walk, which again is a matter for us about discipline and commitment.
And of course, in the larger sense, as Christians, addresses holistic health and well-being as well. That the spiritual, the physical, the psychological, the mental, all those things together make up who we are as God's people, and we're called to be good stewards of all of those together.
That's right. What all God gives us, the blessings that He gives us, and says, this is how I want you to use what I have given you, whether it's your body, whether it's your resources, whether it's your mind. Use all that for my glory and the glory of the world.
Yeah. We wanted to spend some time too talking about, you mentioned that this would come to a kind of a focal point for a conclusion. Share with our viewers what you had in mind for that.
And outside of the city of Uniontown is a Methodist camp. called Jumonville.
Sure.
And that goes back to the French and Indian War, and with that area being part of Fort Necessity and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the top of what we call Summit Mountain, outside of the city, is this Jumonville Camp. But the unique feature that it has is a huge cross right on top of the mountain, which you can see from the city of Uniontown.
Okay.
So our plan was, on the Saturday between Good Friday and Easter, our plan was to have all the people who were available and who were walkers and who had been part of the program to meet us at the base of the cross, and then we would walk the road from the base camp to the cross itself, as a final way of being involved in that. This was a Lenten journey to the cross, and that became our journey to finish at that point. And unfortunately, the weather at that end of the year didn't cooperate. I think we had snow or something, which happens in those mountain areas.
In western Pennsylvania,
we don't have
in
that
early
here.
spring,
Yes.
anything can happen.
Right, and that was one of the issues that Bishop Jones and his wife were probably going to come down to join us for. At least that was one of their ideas. And we hope that if we do this again, that's something we will continue to do. And we had a number of our people were ready to go and ready to meet at the mountain and go from there to make that one final step. I did it a couple times. Wasn't an easy walk. And, as we know, that Jesus didn't have an easy walk, and neither do we in our life too, sometimes.
No, that was not intended to be the easiest walk.
No.
Most definitely.
No, and when you walk up that road, it's not the easiest, and for Jesus it wasn't easy either. So it gave us some sense of course we have no real sense of what Jesus went through, but I think we do have a little bit of affinity for that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, I guess, looking back over the Christian tradition, or even around the world at different Christian traditions, that whole concept of that walk at the end of his ministry, Jerusalem to the cross. We've got Stations of the Cross in the Catholic Church. We're aware of some of the Spanish traditions where there are processions that include almost a part of the Passion becomes a part of the walk. That has become such a poignant and such a powerful part of the story. Those last steps leading to the ultimate Passion that will come on Good Friday. There's certainly a very strong tradition to connect those together.
And I think that tradition, we tried to pick up on that tradition for the people who had chosen to be part of this interesting event for all of us. And I think a lot of people said, "Hey, Pastor, that was really a kind of a neat thing we did," and they kind of got involved in it. As I said, I was surprised we had 40-some people. But which is about 15% of the membership, which to me was amazing that we were able to do that.
Well, it's truly a remarkable experience, and I think that's the kind of thing we're looking for, is something that will be memorable and that will stay with people and will have a lasting benefit. And it sounds like it achieved its goal for those that participated.
I think it did for those who were part of it. I think they still talk about it, even though it's been a while ago. That we did that. I'll have to think of something else to come up with this Lent. I don't know if I can do anything to top that for a while, but we'll think of a few things to make that work.
Well, it's a good one that will inspire many of our viewers, I'm sure, too, as they think about the Lenten season that's coming. Bernie, thanks so much for taking the time to come in and
I appreciate it very much.
Sharing this aspect of your ministry.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for being with us today on Lutherans Alive. We hope you've enjoyed this opportunity to hear one congregation and one pastor's efforts to make Lent a meaningful and special time in their spiritual journey. Until next time, this is Lutherans Alive. Good day, and God bless you.